To learn something new every week, so that was very helpful. But then I did also do some periods where maybe for like a week or 2 weeks I would just do something every day, and that was also an interesting challenge to just work on a new project, and that's when I also explored doing YouTube videos and things like that, just to, I guess, share what I'm learning. So I guess maybe going through a program like YC and having being accountable to so many people, not just like in Nigeria, but also internationally. So you have a different level of maybe expectations. But yeah, we didn't want to steal people's money either.
What word of advice to the team, to us? One word of advice? Yeah, just anything. We've learned so much from you, so anything you right
now. I would say what I always say to people is don't be afraid to really put yourself out there, and like doing things like writing or speaking or just anything to put yourself out there, because especially nowadays it's quite difficult to stand out in like this industry. So whatever you can do to like give yourself that extra boost, even if you're a shy person like I am. But yeah, just try and do it anyway.
Right. A round of applause. Thank you so much, Ire. Thank you for taking our time to do this with us today. I know you've had a busy week. You had moonshot a few days ago, 2 days ago, and it was such a fantastic session. So thank you so much for spending this time with us today. I think it was very, very good, yes?
Yeah.
Yes, very glad that we did this, and hope to see you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
This again. So yes, I'm going to very quickly talk about the indexing process before I talk about how we built our career, because you guys need to maybe get some insight into this. So the indexing process was essentially we downloaded the repository from GitHub, then we parsed your files, figure out what functions are in your files, what's links between functions and whatnot, and then save that to the graph database we use Neo4j. And then after that, we then describe like each function in your code base. What that allowed us to do is then be able to, when you ask certain queries, query can then go say, okay, find me related code to this person's query, find me related code to these questions and whatnot. We also described commits to your Git commit, so that we could ask questions into the past, like, oh, this broke recently, what commit may have caused this, what may have caused this, what may have done that. So yes, that's like a very high level overview of the indexing process. It's terribly complex, and I don't want to explain that right now. So I'm talking about career tools now. So I just took like 4 core tools that it has that are really cool, and I think help is to be able to do really cool stuff. So the first tool is called find related code. As you can tell, I'm a JavaScript developer. It's my camel case. Wait, the first thing it has is called find related code, and essentially what we trained it to do was so how tools work is you give it a description, you give it a schema of, okay, send me data in this format, and when you send me data in this format, I'll perform this action, I'll return this data to you. So we told query, oh, for this find related code, if your user asks you a query about something, you can take the keywords in that query and pass it to me, and then I'll go off and find the related code to this query. So for example, if the user asks where's checkout logic located, query could call the find related code with checkout functions, and then we can do a semantic search against our vector database. Let me just do a general explanation of what a semantic search is. It's essentially trying to find, when you index a code base and you describe it, and you save it to a vector database, it's saved in terms of numbers, but these numbers represent the meaning of the words. So they sort of encode meaning into the numbers. It's actually really cool technology. So then when you search for checkout, this checkout is also converted into numbers. Then it kind of does like a similarity check. It uses like vector multiplication and whatnot. But it's basically a similarity check to find the most similar things to it. So when we search for checkouts, we go search against our vector database, find the related functions to that. Also we rank it to find, okay, all these things we return, what is actually relevant. And then it uses this concept called graph rag, because we already have a graph, as I mentioned here. So if you find the related functions and find maybe top 4 functions, instead of just returning those functions, we can return the functions that are connected to it too. So for example, if you're asking how does checkout work, I can return the 4 functions that have checkout in them, but I can then return maybe like the page that calls that function. That wasn't on the surface normally, but I return that page's code, and it allows query to answer the question much more better.
Alright. Okay, so Yeah, we're talking about building AI-powered developer tools with open source. In the previous session, that was before the panel session, we talked about AI agents, and we looked in depth of the several components of AI agents. And at several points in time, we talked about workflows, how to differentiate between a workflow and an actual agent, right? Now, what we'll be talking about was primarily focused on, the workflow side of things. So this was like the other parts, the other side of the previous talk, typically. All right, so moving in, these are all just talks. The who am I is there because I love Linux primarily. Senior software engineer, Rocksteady Technology, GDG Cloud Lagos. Yeah, that's it. And today, we'll pretty much be talking about AI and dev tools. We'll break out some concepts because I'm of the opinion that when you want to work with tools, you just need to know the what's and the whys. When you figure both of them out, how to do it to come around. It's kind of automatic. So AI and dev tools talk about core concepts, then we'll merge all our concepts together. And of course, the most important part, if you have gifts for me. So yeah, gifts in the speaker. All right, so yeah, AI and dev tools, let's go into that. So typically, what's your regular use case of AI? If I ask everybody here, what comes to your mind first when I say AI? ChatGPT typically comes first. ChatGPT or some chatbots, Gemini. If something other than that comes to your mind, chances are you're a very strong nerd that uses AI for more than serious things, right? But yeah, there is a concept that would make you feel like AI can just answer questions. So you think of it like your companion that you can always talk to and can answer questions for you. But in reality, they can actually do more than answering questions. There's a particular function, particular feature of LLMs called function calling that allows them to detect intent to an extent and then call the right functions from its predefined set. So it might seem like we're talking about agents here, but think of it like agents is like more complicated or sophisticated, but it's built upon the same concept. So it's like function calling, but then I can do more than that. But the concept is an LLM. When you give it some context, it can, determine what function to call based on what you've informed it to do. And primarily, when you harness this feature, you realize that the underlying principle behind some of the buzzwords out there, from MCP to agents to tools. If we remove function calling from LLMs, most of these things pretty much die. Right? Okay, so moving on. It's a very classic example, and it's written in Python. And I'm just going to use Gemini. It's just it's very simple agent. This is using ADK, by the way. ADK is Agents Development Kits by Google. And I'm just instantiating the agent, linking it up with an LLM, passing some API keys around. But the point here is, there's a prompt. You're a helpful assistant that can tell dad jokes. Only use this tool to tell a joke. So I can tell it can tell a joke normally, but I've given it context to only use this particular function to tell a joke. And then I expose the function here. So by random logic, using the random package, you can just pick one joke and give it to them. And we're very sure that every joke the LLM is going to bring is going to come from this set. That's just a very classic example of function calling. But then you can already see, in this example is tell a dad joke. It could also be call an API, it could be check the map, different things you could do. But the point is, from this simple prompt, a function can get called by an LLM. Okay, so that's it. So moving on, the role of AI in developer tooling, which we've already talked about, the LLM sides, but primarily to automate your routine task, like we all know, because you can handle this function calling. You can improve your productivity, AI pair programming. There was a particular article by Thorsten Ball where he showed how you can build your own coding agents in Golang quickly. Most people think you could only use AI for, when you talk about AI engineering, you're working with Python and JavaScript. But with just having access to APIs and this function calling feature, you can actually build a complete coding agent end-to-end with that. So it enhances insights. We have tools, particularly in GCP, where this same function calling, because of that function calling, you can just put AI above, your underlying infrastructure and expose your infrastructure via functions, right? So with that, you have log analysis. If you use GCP at the end, you see some AI summarizer somewhere that can actually help you summarize your logs. And I'm very sure they did not have to build everything from the ground up just to enable this feature. You just expose function calling and optimize that. So because of that, it also enables workflows, and we'll show something like that quickly because there's a demo at the end that explains that bit. Okay, so moving on, and that's all about AI and dev tools. Let's talk about core concepts. So we'll talk about RAG, talk about LangChain, and I'll explain why LangChain is pretty much what you want to use when you're working with AI tools in general. Okay, so LangChain, open source, first things first, open source. So we already know the advantages of something being open source. Open source development framework designed specifically for creating applications powered by LLMs. All it does basically is just that generic framework that you can easily use to switch between LLMs. You could achieve the same work, the same code, but with different models at the same time. That's like the perfect abstraction in my opinion. Right. It also provides the simple structures, so it doesn't give you, if I want to bring it to the world of software engineering, it's not something like Laravel, where if you don't keep this in this folder, it won't show up in this particular place. It pretty much gives you the little structures, and then it's up to you to build up your application yourself, right? And it's not an LLM. It works with LLMs like Gemini, OpenAI, Claude, but you can just think of it as a box of Lego bricks for LLM apps. So depending on your imagination and the bricks in your hands, you can build whatever structure you want to build. Emphasis on the imagination bits. Okay, so why LangChain? Standardized interface, which I talked about already. And because it's a standardized interface, it enables modularity and reusability. As a matter of fact, every example we give in LangChain, you can use the exact code for OpenAI and Gemini. You just need to change one line and the exact code works completely. It's free and open source, which is arguably one of its best parts, the fact that it's free. And that's about why LangChain. And core components, which really concerns us, LLM wrappers, which are just abstractions over each individual LLM, prompt templates, which help you write properly refined prompts, memory, which is a very important part of working with AI, because many a times they are transient. If you do not manage your own memory when working with them, they'll most likely not remember. I built something last week. I was testing out a particular feature, and then I told it to ask for my name. No, I introduced myself. Hi there, my name is Chukwuemeka. And then the next question I asked was, what's my name? And then its response was, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, Chukwuemeka. And I was, okay, I just moved on from that, but it's fine. I eventually figured out what was happening, but we'll get there. There's also chains, which is one of the good parts about LangChain. When, in the previous session, we talked about graphs and how you could look at, you could look at related code as graphs, right? With LangChain, they actually have a feature called LangGraph, and you could actually build your own graph of agents and function tools and everything. So your entire workflow could just be like a graph. If you can imagine your workflow as a flowchart, for example, you can pretty much build it out with LangChain and the ecosystem. Okay, so while LangChain as a framework improves the overall developer experience, on its own, it doesn't eliminate the risk of hallucinations in LLMs. Has anybody here faced hallucinations before in LLMs? Hallucinations are very, very, I think they are the source of trust issues for LLMs. Once you see an LLM hallucinate, you instantly do not want to depend on it again, right? And the way they always say it with confidence is the shocking part. They are so confident about it. So how do we fix this? Introduce, I'm supposed to do drum robots.
Let's go back.
So we should go back. Yeah, no. So how do we fix this? Drum roll. All right, thank you. RAG. So RAG is It stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, and it's typically an AI technique, emphasis on AI technique. It's not a framework. Well, a technique can be looked at a framework, but not a programming framework. It's like a conceptual framework. A technique that enhances LLMs by connecting them to external data sources, such as databases or documents, to generate more accurate, reliable, and up-to-date information. Just to put it simply, RAG enhances an LLM response quality by retrieving and supplying relevant context with the prompts. So the point of RAG is, I know the LLM is smart, but I don't know if it's knowledgeable enough. So it is smart based on this knowledge base. So if I give it enough knowledge base, it will answer me better. That's the perfect analogy for RAG. And this entire concept is known as grounding. So have you seen cases where you ask questions, you ask GPT questions, and then you see it's trying to perform a Google search. It will make a Google search to ground its answer. So the concept of just gathering enough context, in particular, adding context to LLM, like adding real-world context to LLMs before they provide their answer, is grounding. Now, RAG is a specific form of grounding that involves this ones I just explained.
So I would say like the event has been like very good. Like I learned a lot. I learned so much from the team. I learned a lot from the DevFest team, and I learned a lot from Ire and her life story and how she got into front end and how she created a startup and our friends, our story. I learned a lot about RAG. I learned a lot from every person that actually presented in this event, which is amazing because if you realize like they actually did a very. So like I learned a lot, and it was quite an amazing session, if I might say, because the team really took a lot of time to arrange this. And like if this is how the Pre-DevFest is, imagine how the DevFest will be. And I implore you all to actually like go and like register. I'll put the link in the description so you can register, buy a ticket, and just go for the event. I promise you, this is the biggest tech event in Nigeria. So this is the best place to meet people, connect, and don't be shy. If you see me at the event, please come say hi. And you know, like I learned a lot, and I want to everybody that had the chance to watch the video very well. Make sure you go through them because these are a lot of information being shared by them. I literally got a startup idea while listening to the RAG section and learning from Ire, and she actually asked a reporting question where she answered me. It was about a question about like letting go, like after building a company, writing code, and you giving another person your code base. It's like that insecurity. She explained a lot, and I learned a lot from her. I learned a lot from the RAG section, and I would just say these are the most. This is like I'm really glad I was able to go there, meet them, and talk to them, ask questions, and like learn a lot. So yeah, I'll drop the links in the description. You can check the socials so that you can reach out to them or connect with them or anything like that. Yeah. Okay, so if you like the video, like and subscribe, and maybe like share the video with your friends if something you actually think is very important and you gained a lot. So yeah, bye.